law is very important in ensuring justice and accountability in the construction sector, especially when negligence occurs that result in loss or harm to another party. In this presentation, the focus is given to the basic principles of liability under tort law through a real case study in Subang Jaya, which involves issues between contractors, developers and local residents due to negligence during construction work. Through this study, we will see how concepts such as duty of care, breach of duty, causation and damages are assessed to determine legal liability. By relating theoretical principles to real cases, this analysis can provide a deeper understanding of the role of tort law in addressing construction issues, protecting public rights and strengthening risk management and professional ethics in the construction industry in Malaysia.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahnaf Hakimi bin Hanif. Alright, let's move to the identify of case. There are three relevant case law related. The first one is Majlis Perbandaran Ampang Jaya versus Station 4 Cheng Lon and Ors in 2006. The second one is E. To Juan and Anor versus Oi Won Chi and Ors in 2013. And the last one is Hermraj and Co. Sendirian Berhad versus Tenaga Nasional Berhad in 2023. Alright, let's move to the issue that we discussed. The first one is non-delegable duty of case. The first and second defendant may owe the non-delegable duty of the care of the plaintiff as their neighbourhood. This means they remain the responsibility to prevent the harm even if the contractor were higher. In Majlis Perbandaran Ampang Jaya versus Station 4 Chen Long, the court held a party liable despite outsourcing because of the possibility of harm from a high-risk work. Right. This non-delegable duty means that even if someone hire a contractor, there still remain a responsibility to prevent harm. Alright, this was clearly shown in this case, Majlis Perbandaran Ampang Jaya versus Stephen 4 Cheng Lon, where the local council was held liable for the landslide even though the work was outsourced. This was clearly shown in the case. These are actually similar here, that the defendant began to demolish the construction right next to the plaintiff big house. Because of the risk involved, they couldn't simply pass the responsibility on to others. They had to make sure no harm came to neighborhood properties. Alright, move to the next one. Issue number 2, failure to supervise and monitor. The first and the second defendant failed to adequately supervise and monitor the construction works, which is in Hermraj and Co. Sendirian Berhad versus TNB. Liability showed up when the contractor caused damage due to the poor oversight severity. Here, the defendants ignore signs of damage, breaching their duty and safeguard neighborhood properly. Okay, next we consider whether the first and second defendant failed to supervise the work properly. Yes, they hire professionals, but that doesn't remove their duty to ensure that everything was done safely. In this case, Hermraj and Co. versus TNB. TNB was held liable when their contractor caused damage. The cause at TNB was negligent for the supervising. In this case, crack and ground damage were reported by the plaintiff, but the defendant didn't act or investigate. This shows that they didn't take a responsible step to monitor the situation or protect the nearby home. The next one is issue number 3, which is negligence by architect, contractor and engineer. The architect, contractor and civil engineering may be professional negligent. In C, in case Teo Chuan and Owun Chi, professional were liable for harm to third parties due to the construction failure. In this case, expert evidence link the damage to their failure to decrease the construction risk. Okay, in this case, professional were held liable when their construction works caused damage to the neighborhood property. The court said professionals owe a duty not just to their clients, but also the third parties who may be affected. In our case, expert evidence show the contractor and the engineer action directly caused the damage to plaintiff and bungalow.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Nashmuddin bin Azman. Now we straight to issue 4, which is joint tortfeasorship in identify of the case. All defendants may be jointly and severally liable as joint tortfeasors. When multiple parties contribute to a single harm, courts allow plaintiff to recover fully from any one of them. This ensures plaintiff receive full compensation while defendants resolve their shares of liability among themselves. Okay, so what can we summarize from the identify of the case is the first and second defendant owe a non-delegable duty of care and fail to supervise the construction works. The professionals involved were also negligent in protecting the plaintiff property. Case law supports holding all parties jointly liable when their actions together cause damage. The plaintiff have a strong negligence claim as the harm was foreseeable and preventable. These principles are well established in construction disputes involving third-party damage.
Now, let's look at the key findings from the case involving a construction dispute in Subang Jaya back in 2018. Firstly, the parties involved in the case include the plaintiffs, identified as A and B, who are joint owner and residents of a 3-story bungalow located in Subang Jaya. On the other side, the defendants are the first and second defendants, who are the owner of the adjoining property, the third defendant, who is the architect, the fourth defendant, the contractor, and the last defendant, the fifth defendant, is the civil engineer. The damages claimed by the plaintiff involve visible structural cracks on their bungalow and a substantial hole that formed in the guarded area. These damages were believed to have been caused by a construction work done on the neighbouring property. Next, the allegations made by the plaintiff include that the first and second defendants failed to properly monitor and manage the contractor activities, and that the contractor and other professionals involved in the project did not carry out their duties with the expected level of care and skill.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nurain Shira. Based on the slide, I will explain about the recommendation of the case. The first one is compensation by the employer. Based on the case given, the first and second defendants still had a non-deligible duty of care and legally responsible with the damage they caused. Non-deligible duty is referred as the legal duty that cannot be passed on to someone else, even if you hire a professional like a contractor to do the work. So this means the first and second defendants still have legally responsible to solve the damage that they caused. I mean, the problem can solve by provide the compensation to the plaintiff A and plaintiff B. Okay, so for the second recommendation is strict enforcement of building regulation. This means by the owner need to ensure all contractor and professional comply with building regulation and safety protocols, especially during demolition and structural works, to avoid legal liabilities and property damage. Okay, next, for the third recommendation is property insurance coverage. Plaintiff and other property owner encouraged to obtain comprehensive property insurance that cover potential risks such as damages from neighboring construction. This insurance serves as preventative against unforeseen structural loss. So from me, I pass the presentation to the next presenter.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Fatin Farida binti Muhammad Kamil, and I will conclude our presentation. In conclusion, this case proves that property owners cannot avoid their legal responsibility under a non-delegable duty of care, even if they hire contractor to do the work. The direct damage to the plaintiff bungalow was caused by the professional negligence of the architect, contractor, and civil engineer involved. To ensure fair compensation for the plaintiff, all the defendants can be held jointly and individually responsible for the damage caused. This clearly shows how tort law protects innocent parties and holds everyone accountable when negligence occurs. That's all from us. Thank you.